All right, if you haven't seen it already, you probably have, but here's a video of John Morant flashing a gun on Instagram Live. It's a problem. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about why and a few other things that are going wrong for the Memphis Grizzlies. They've got problems. Let's talk about it. It's the Hoops Nerd Show. All right, guys, first and foremost with this, honestly, the biggest thing is I think John Morant needs some help. He's got to have someone in his life. And he's got the thing that's crazy about all this is he's got a good family. T. Morant is a great guy. He seems like a great dad. Seems like he has a solid family. And so it's kind of strange. All these things are going on. But this gun thing now is actually a bigger problem for more than just the fact that John Morant is now going to be suspended for 2 games by the team. We'll see what the NBA does with this if they do another suspension for John Morant. But for now, we know that the Memphis Grizzlies, who released a statement, they're going to have him away from the team, aka suspended for 2 games for what he's doing, for him to figure it out. And some props to John Morant for putting out a statement today, also saying that he needs to do better. He needs to find a way to deal with his stress better than this. Although, I can't even show this whole video because I want to keep my YouTube channel. I would not like my YouTube channel suspended. So anyways, we're just showing the PG version of that video, which I guess involves a gun. But anyways, there are some issues going on with John Morant because this isn't the only issue that's happened with John Morant recently. If you haven't been paying attention, just before this event, like literally days ago, John Morant being in multiple altercations in July of 2022, one of those involving a gun with a teen, one of those where he beats up a mall security guard in a mall, beating up this 17-year-old kid and then flashing a gun. And so for those things to come out a few days ago, and then for John Morant to do this today and show the gun is honestly, it's a real sign of, 1, immaturity, and 2, I think someone needs to help him out. Someone's got to get to John Morant and tell him that these things are problems and you've got to think hard about this. Because if you're in a trial or some sort of case, or a judge is going to make some sort of verdict on this, and while they're doing that, you're flashing guns on an Instagram Live, it's just poor decision making. And I get it. This is not something that just John Morant does. If you think other NBA players or most NBA players aren't having nights kind of like the one in this video, then you're wrong. I don't think all these players are flashing guns. In fact, I think the majority of them aren't doing things like that with guns, because that's the type of thing like Gilbert Arenas can get you kicked out of the league. So he's got to be careful. And players are going to deal with their stress how they do it. But you've got to think harder about what you're doing. If you're in the middle of some sort of case that involves a gun and then you're flashing a gun in that kind of way, it's just not smart. And by the way, this affects his entire team. This affects the other players on the team. If I'm a player on that team that's wanting to make the playoffs, wanting to do well, and I'm seeing this and now seeing that John Morant's away from the team, I'm frustrated. I would be frustrated. And you can bet the front office and the coach and everyone involved is frustrated and not happy with it. So it's something that's got to be dealt with. And apparently the Grizzlies are going to do it. But we'll see what happens if the NBA does anything on top of that. It's a problem. Now, this isn't the only problem for the Memphis Grizzlies. When it rains, it pours. Today, we find out also that Dillon Brooks was like, what, John Morant's got problems? Let me add on to it, as Dillon Brooks does. But anyways, Dillon Brooks received a 16 technical, and now he is suspended for 1 game because of that technical. So a big shout out to Dillon Brooks, who doesn't seem to know how to cool it and wants to be on top of the news every day, it seems. And then finally, this is some real terrible news. Brandon Clark has torn his Achilles and will be out for the rest of the season. That is a brutal injury. One of the worst injuries you can get, to be honest, for a basketball player. And so you just hope that Brandon Clark can get okay. But right now, things are not going well for the Grizzlies. They've got to figure things out. In a time where they would need a leader like John Morant, he's not acting like one at all. And they needed him to turn it around and figure out how to be an example for this team instead of someone that takes all the shine off of what is a really good Memphis Grizzlies team and should be going into the playoffs and have a chance at making it to the finals. Now, who knows what's going to happen? Guys, like and subscribe to the channel. A shout out to all our all-stars who support me every video. I will talk to you next time.